Okay, so as I was saying, there's a lot of composty stuff. There's a little bit of a lycopod shoot here, but on the whole, this isn't really, it's not fantastic. But we go through a hell of a lot of this rock in order to find anything. In fact, if I spend a whole day opening rocks and I find one fossil that I think is fantastic, well, then I consider that to be a very successful day. But you never know how lucky one can be or how unlucky one can be. It varies.
The fossil finds of Robert Gess, a paleontology doctoral student at Wits University, recently received wide international acknowledgement. His unique 360-million-year-old fossil finds have illuminated the mysterious estuarine world of sub-Saharan Africa in the late Devonian era.
We've got quite a nice piece of a herbaceous lycopod, which is a smaller kind of lycopod. You can see the sort of central axis goes up there, and it's got all these little leafy bits coming off.
The layers of shale are opened with a pocket knife. He uses a chisel skillfully to chip away thin layers of shale until the intact root of a primitive plant emerges. And this is his lucky day.
I said I'm sincerely chuffed about what we just found. Something I haven't got before, so it's just where we were talking about lucky packets. You just never know which one's going to give you something new.
Robert has worked the site on and off over 20 years, so it's not just luck. This beautiful fossil shows the leaves of an Archaeopteris tree, one of the world's earliest large forest trees. The prehistoric setting of modern Grahamstown was amazingly different.
Basically, at the time where Grahamstown was on the coast of a sea that we refer to as the Agulhas Sea. Now, the Agulhas Sea was a semi-enclosed sea, almost like the Mediterranean is, in West Gondwana. So Europe was at the time an tropical environment. Parts of Asia, North America, and Australia were all along the tropics. But what we've got here is an extremely high latitude environment, not too far from the South Pole. It's got a unique fauna. The fauna has a lot of resemblances to other faunas of its age, but also has specific differences, which are probably because of a semi-isolated effect of the sea with the opening towards the South Pole.
The Devonian period is known as the Age of Fish, and Robert has found 17 species of fish, including this unique young shark.
Amongst the creatures we get from the site, there are quite a large diversity of these placoderms, which we've got here. This one here, Bothrialepis africana, in part and counterpart, is described from the site. It was actually the first Bothrialepis ever found in Africa.
Incredibly, Robert has found 35 young coelacanths.
So here in part and counterpart, we've got a little coelacanth. Like the shark, this is a baby, and therefore it's got quite a large head like the shark. That's its eye. And its mouth is here, and then that's the gill region there. That's the lobe of the pectoral fin, and you can see its body. This is actually the type specimen of species Diplocanthus acus that I described from the specimen, which I found during roadworks during 1999. It's the first member of this genus known from the southern hemisphere, and is one of various acanthodians from the site.
From all these fish and plant fossils, some of which are perfectly preserved, a picture of estuary life of that time emerges. It's evident that estuaries have always been nurseries for marine fish. Robert's excavations have also uncovered stems and even roots of a variety of terrestrial or land plants.
The fact that what we have here are stems that didn't snap off but were caught up in a collapse of a bank is that some of them, for example this one here, actually still have the base from which the roots are attached. These are the lycopod roots. Although these lycopods reached small tree size, due to the primitive nature of their roots, they couldn't live very far from water.
In more advanced trees like Archaeopteris, roots had evolved to such an extent that trees could grow away from water sources, and forests covered much of the earth, causing global cooling and the second mass extinction. The more fossils he uncovers, the more detailed the picture. But the road cutting is collapsing, and time is running out. The rich fossil deposit on Waterloo Farm was uncovered by accident. In the early 80s, protests in the Grahamstown townships prevented traffic from entering the town, and consequently, a costly bypass was built around the town. In 1985, When the bypass was completed, fossils of plants were spotted in the shale of a cutting. And Robert, a student of geology, began exploring the rock face and finding valuable fossils. But his funding dried up, and work on the site had to stop. Over time, the walls of the cutting began collapsing onto the road below after heavy rains, and the invaluable fossil site was fast disappearing. In 1999, the South African National Road Agency started removing huge amounts of rock from the cutting. Robert successfully lobbied the sympathetic road agency to save as much as possible of the fossil-rich shale.
Thanks to Roads Department have provided us with labour and transport so that we've been able to mine out a lot of blocks of this rock, which we then can go through slowly. It takes years to go through what we're going to be gathering during these road works. And we go through it slowly, then layer by layer, and find what we can find. But at the moment, with the roadworks happening at the rate it's happening, and the collapse happening at the rate it's happening, we don't have time to excavate layer by layer, so we've taken out these blocks. And we gathered about 30 cubic meters of shale in 1999 and tracked them. And I spent years going through those. And actually, it was from those blocks of rock that we found the lamprey.
The story of this remarkable 360 million-year-old lamprey fossil find was published in the British science magazine Nature and received worldwide acknowledgement and interest. Lampreys do not have a bony skeleton. Theirs is cartilaginous, so their fossils are very rare. Only 3 far younger lamprey fossil species have ever been found. The lamprey fossil is just over 4 centimeters long and is housed in the Albany Museum in Grahamstown, along with all the other finds that Robert has made.
Lampreys have hardly changed for 360 million years. Lampreys are actually a specific, specialized group of jawless vertebrates, which have a sucker disc surrounded with a little central mouth surrounded by teeth, which they suck onto other creatures to drink the blood from.
Identifying the fossil was easy, because many of its key specializations are present in the modern version of the fish.
Lampreys are actually very important living fossils. That when we look at a lamprey and we look at its gill structure its entire structure, even its DNA, we're actually looking at the DNA, the skeleton of a living fossil. So therefore, the insights that scientists get from studying modern lampreys are particularly pertinent. Knowing how ancient and how lampreys are and how little they've changed. If one asks oneself, why of all jawless fishes have lampreys survived until the modern day, is that it is probably that having developed this extreme specialization for sucking the blood of other vertebrates, that lampreys haven't needed to change, and that the success of this lifestyle has actually allowed them to out-survive all their other jawless vertebrates and to survive until the modern day.
Now it's a race against time. The removal of rock and earth from the cutting is going at full steam. As this is the only site known in Africa with fauna fossils of the late Devonian age, Robert is hurriedly collecting blocks of shale and carefully logging the rock face layer by layer, mapping out the ancient estuary.
By the time the roadworks has finished with it, this cliff won't be here at all. That's why I've got to carefully sample and log. I actually think most of the geochemical work we're probably going to do next year. But if we've got good logs and good samples going right through, we can do it even though the actual type locality won't be in existence anymore.
The South African National Road Agency Limited deserves applause for their help. Already there's a stockpile of shale at Robert's home in Bathurst that will keep him busy for years. And no doubt, more wonderful fossil finds are on the cards, filling in the gaps of the estuarine setting. Fortunately, Robert remains passionate.
Yeah, in many ways it has much of the excitement of opening lucky packets, because you never know what'll be inside them, what little treasures you can find. So you can go on and on and on, literally for years.
The work of Robert Gess now supported by the National Research Foundation and the Paleontology Society Trust, has greatly advanced our knowledge of a previously unknown world. And his lamprey find is truly a fantastic achievement. Well done, Robert.
Let's hope Robert keeps on making his outstanding finds that illuminate more of the mysterious world of the past. After the break, Simaka.
Since a shark